So The Amazing Adventures of Wally and the Worm is about this kid, Wally Blaze, who was the assistant athletic trainer for the Chicago Bulls during their championship runs. And he was given the task of babysitting Dennis Rodman for a week and a half, doing his physical rehab during the day, and then doing the stuff that gets you into rehab at night. So, yeah, he had a very good time. I mean, Phil Jackson actually said it best. He said it's Almost Famous meets Get Him to the Greek, but animated and colorful. I had a relationship with ESPN. I had done a 30 for 30 short for them called The Anti-Mascot, and they were looking for another subject. And I had read a book by Phil Jackson called 11 Rings, and in it there was a paragraph talking about Wally Blaze having to go out with Dennis Rodman, and he basically described it as Almost Famous meets Get Him to the Greek. And I said, well, that would be an interesting story, but it involves helicopters and Lamborghinis, and it's all before cell phones, so it's not going to, I can't recreate it. There's nothing I could do. And one of the people at ESPN said, oh, well, why don't you animate it? And so we reached out to Wally, who's an amazing individual, really great guy. And he said, yeah, I'd love to. And because Wally said yes, Dennis said, of course, happy to tell some tales out of school. Wally is this, he's worked in the NBA for over 20 years. He's got a lot of really great stories. And it just so happens that this particular, journey that he took with Dennis, it was his first time sort of traveling out of Chicago, so it's sort of this fish out of water story. And he's just one of those guys that just soaks up details. He loves to tell stories, preferably at a bar over a beer. And once I got talking to him, it turns out, he's a big music fan like I am, so, we had that in common. We actually knew some people in common. I've let this one particular band, J. Roddy Walston and the Business, stay at my house when they're on tour, and it just so happens that Wally has done the same. And so we had all this mutual, connections. We're just very similar kind of people. And so he told us, all of the crazy stuff that he would do with Dennis, meeting Prince, meeting Rodney Dangerfield, all of these insane things, because Dennis really sort of said, like, all right, Wally, like, if you're going to come out with me, like, you're going to come out with me. Like, I'm not going to take it easy on you. And Dennis really enjoyed that. And Wally, I think, can enjoy it more now because he's gotten sleep since then. But, Wally's just, he's a really sort of charismatic storyteller and a really fun guy. When I was making Tower and subsequently, making Eagles as well, but specifically with Tower, I went in saying, there were two things that I didn't want the film to have. I didn't want the film to have all of the famous people in the first 4 minutes telling the audience why the film was important, and I didn't want a narrator. I felt it was important that if you're making a film about a subject, you're declaring that it's worthy of a film. And it's so much more engaging when you can have the people that actually lived these stories tell them, as opposed to a narrator dictating to you the reasons why things happened or the events.